Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $8.6 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Today is Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Massive layoffs are affecting thousands of federal workers who are now figuring out their next steps for survival. And Doge keeps lying. Y'all, they told us, oh my God, we found 8, 10, 15, $20 billion in cuts. When you read the fine print, it's only $8 million. What the hell's going on? A self-described nonpartisan nonprofit organization reported that its post-election analysis in Clark County, Nevada, produced results consistent with voter manipulation. We'll talk with the executive director of the Election Truth Alliance. Grifter Lindy Lee, you know, the former DNC fundraiser who claims she raised millions for the Harris campaign. Well, guess what? She gets questioned about who she voted for, but then former DNC chair Jamie Harrison drops the boom on her on social media. He said, either you lying or you a liar. It's a whole lot we got to unpack today, y'all. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, it's always important for you to read the fine print when we start talking about what is happening with Doge, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and all the stuff that they're doing. I mean, to be real honest, they're lying. They're lying. They're just making moves willy-nilly, firing people left and right without any regard for their families, for their health care, their jobs, you name it. And we really have been trying to walk y'all through what's going on here. Because, see, a lot of people out here are excited and happy, and they're like, oh, think great things are happening. They're moving. They're taking action. But it's sort of like people who are moving chairs around the Titanic. Oh, you're like, hey, there's action. Things are happening, but are things really happening? Or are they just breaking stuff just for the hell of it, that gives you the impression that things are actually going well? So I came across this video of poster Frank Luntz, and he made this claim. That former Biden and other voters made the claim that they, quote, love the pace of what's happening. They love how fast things are moving. But you got to ask the question, are things actually moving? What's actually happening? Or are people claiming things are happening, but things are not really happening? So I want you to listen to this conversation between Frank Luntz and Breonna Keeler on CNN to get an understanding of what they're saying. So we'll break it down. Listen.
I wanted to have you on because you do a lot of focus groups. You really get behind the numbers, the poll numbers, to the sentiments of voters. And it's so interesting. You've been speaking with a number of voters who were Hillary Clinton 2016, Joe Biden 2020, and then went for Trump in 2024. How are these folks seeing the early days of Trump's second term?
Pretty well.
Really?
And they're reacting to it because they love the pace of change. They were very fed up over the last 4 years. They wanted action. They wanted results. They looked at prices. They looked at affordability, looked at immigration, and they didn't see anything happening. They still don't like what he says, but they like what he does. And these are Democrats now who felt that they were not securing the border. They were doing nothing to prevent illegal immigration, that nothing was actually happening. They wanted to see a reduction in wasteful Washington spending, and they're seeing that. So what they tell me is, I wish he would be a little bit less rude. But at the same time, they like what he's doing. They believe he's serious about it. And for the first time, they have confidence in the future, which is why you now see some significant shifts in the polling about the expectations for the direction in the coming years.
It's a big wake-up call for Democrats.
I'm waiting for them to get a message. I'm waiting for them to unify and to understand that to oppose and to be the resistance which is what some of them use that phrase. That's not what Democrats in grassroots areas want from them. They may not want the approach that Trump is doing, President Trump. By the way, I now know to say President Trump. But they do want action, and they don't see action from the Democrats.
Okay, so they want action. They want to see stuff done. Here's a fact. Trump and his co-president Elon Musk and Tom Homan, they are deporting fewer people per day than happened under Biden. But this is the difference. The difference is Trump has turned deportations into a reality show. Trump has invited Dr. Phil to be embedded with the folks doing the deporting. He's out there following them around, and he's on the ground with them. Then you've got Kristi Noem. She is the head of Homeland Security. Oh, she's really doing this thing up, y'all. She's showing up, dressed all up in the uniform, and she's got the Homeland Security uniform on, and she got the cowboy hat on. And you think I'm lying? Go to my iPad, Henry. Oh, look at this here. Oh, man. We got the green on, and we got the flak jacket on, and we got the cowboy hat on. And, I'm showing y'all what I'm doing. See, you saw Biden-Harris's head of Homeland Security. You saw her. You saw her out there, and you saw Mayorkas in a suit leading the agency. But no, this is what you got right here. You got Noem. This looks like Yellowstone. This looks like a television show. So, oh my goodness, that's the difference, y'all. Trump is a showman. He is a circus act. So what he has done, he is creating the illusion of action. So what then happens? Oh, Elon is coming in, and he's tearing these things up, and he's firing people, and they're sitting here, oh my God, we're doing these things, and we're saving billions of dollars, and it's $8 billion a day. Did y'all see today's announcement? This is the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library. Oh, did you see the sign on the door? Due to the executive order, the JFK Library will be closed until further notice. You can't actually go to the library because what they've done with federal workers. And you may say, oh my goodness. See, it's action. It's action. Check this out. Trump signs an executive order claiming the only people who can say what the law is, him and the Attorney General. Listen to this here.
In the office of man. Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will. That was the...
I'm sorry. Only the President and the Attorney General can speak on what the law is. Really? Are you serious? Is that what we're doing? See, it's the illusion of things happening. And see, there are people out there who they thought that, oh yeah, Trump is going to come in, he's going to make these changes, and things are going to get moved. What did Frank Luntz say? Oh, those voters, those Biden, Hillary voters. What did the first thing he said? Prices come down. I'm sorry, have prices come down? I don't recall seeing prices come down. I don't. Last I checked. In a second, I'm going to ask my panel, Have they seen housing prices go down? Have they seen, I'm sorry, inflation's up. Did y'all know inflation's up? We've had more airplane crashes in the past 3 weeks than we had in the previous 23 years. I'm just confused here. This is Congressman Jim McGovern on the House floor. Listen.
Mr. Speaker, the party who proclaims to be America First is screwing over our farmers and making it harder for people in rural communities to survive. This unified Republican government hasn't done one damn thing to support regular people or help them put food on the table. The House Agriculture Committee is holding a hearing this morning about the economic crisis in farm country. Newsflash, it's declining by the minute because Donald Trump and Elon Musk work for the billionaires and not for regular people. This self-proclaimed America First crowd is threatening tariffs against our closest trading partners and upending food aid that is shipped by American farmers. The last trade war started by this president cost American farmers $27 billion in exports. And here's the sick part. Republicans are cheering him on because they want to use the money they steal from the American people, from farmers and from SNAP recipients to give billionaires a tax break. That's not America First. That's not supporting our rural economy. It's a sham deal for working people. I yield back.
I want y'all just you gotta pay attention. You can't get distracted by the mirage. You don't believe me? Listen to this fool when he was asked about prices.
Egg prices have reached an all-time high. What's your egg prices have reached an all-time high?
It was a long, before I ever got here, it was at an all-time. This didn't, remember, I've been here for 3 weeks.
I've been here for 3 weeks. But you said on day one you were gonna cause these things to go down. Egg prices are up 53% compared to last year. It's because of that bird flu. But who got rid of the people who track those things in the CDC? Trump and Musk. Who's getting rid of, who fired the Inspector General over the food supply? Trump and Musk. I need y'all to understand you're being played. These fools are being played. They don't even know it. They don't even realize it. Control room, get our FAFO video ready. We were supposed to do it yesterday, but get that video ready. They don't understand it. I'm gonna show y'all something right now that's gonna trip y'all out. Again, Trump, I love the military. I love our veterans. I love the veterans. How about this veteran? Luke Graziani. The man has disabled Army veteran, 4 kids, did 3 tours. Guess what? He got fired from his Bronx VA hospital. You see this right here? He got fired. That's right. He served 20 years in the Army, first as a supply specialist, then in public affairs, deploying for 2 tours in Iraq, another 2 in Afghanistan, for retiring in 2023. So let me explain to you what's going on. Okay, so Trump said, I love the military. So he's firing VA workers, veterans. So now veterans, it's going to be hard for them to get their health care because it's the federal workers who deliver the services. Oh, guess what? By firing the federal workers, you're now going to cause this veteran to potentially get evicted, or he's going to have to apply for SNAP benefits and federal benefits in order to live. Oh, but guess what? They're trying to cut SNAP benefits by 20%. Oh, but Elon Musk is breaking things and making them better. So they're just sitting here oh no, this is for the good. These things are great. It's just, it's perfect. That's what's going on. That's what they're saying to you right now. And then you got, what's the dude who's on the Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary? He's sitting here like, Elon Musk is out here and he's just, he's making things happen and he's moving people and he's firing people. And you know what? If we just sit here and just cut and cut and cut and cut and cut, things are going to be great. Listen to this.
referring to?
I think the issue is they're not whacking enough. There's this concept in private equity when you get a bankrupt company and you go in there, you cut 20% more than your initial read. And then you find like a pool of mercury, the organization gels back together again. Always cut deeper, harder when there's fat and waste. The FAA, it's not the people. The code is cobalt. It's from the 60s. It needs CapEx put into it for the technology to be upgraded to make it safer. Fat like a chicken. All of these agencies are like big fat chickens dripping over barbecues of fat. This is the best barbecue I've ever seen, but I don't think it's happening fast enough. They're not cutting enough. Keep slashing, keep hacking while you have a 24-month mandate before the midterms. Cut, more cutting. Believe me, it's going to work out just great. Everybody should be happy.
Even people with the nuclear codes, cut them too?
Cut everything. Because if you don't see what they're doing and they can't show you that they're adding value, you whack.
But it's clear. So here's the problem. They're not even doing that. See, when you make cuts, I own a business. If I need to cut, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, okay, how much is this costing me? How much is this costing me? How much is this costing me? All right, what's the value of that? So I'm just going to again, I just want you to understand, this is real basic. So here's a perfect example. So I'm sitting here right now. I'm just going to give you, matter of fact, we were just literally doing this as I was driving in. I was just driving in. Okay, this is a very basic, because I want to make it plain for all of you who are watching. Okay, all right. So Henry, go to my phone. This is the LU Smart app. This is the LU Smart app, okay? This app is on my phone. This app is tied to our LiveView unit. This app is $300 a month. We want to be able to, if I'm remote, if I'm somewhere, I can connect to our LiveView unit and I can do it from this app. Well, guess what? You can knock on me. We were on the app, and this is supposed to have an IFB function, meaning I can talk, but I can hear the control room at the same time. Well, it's not working. So we're like, call a company. Let's find out how does this work the way we need to work. So we're going to call LiveView, and if this app isn't working the way we need it to work, I'm getting rid of this app. That's going to save me $300 a month. That's $3,600 a year. But I need to know if it actually works. What Elon Musk is doing and his team, they're just cutting, not even asking. You heard Sarah sitting there ask, even cut nuclear people? He goes, yeah, cut. Y'all, here's the problem. These are the people who over our nuclear arsenal. These idiots, Elon Musk and his idiots, whacked more than 300 people who worked on covering our nuclear capability, fired them, then went, damn, they do the nuclear, shit, we gotta bring them back. So then they started emailing and calling, trying to bring them back. And they couldn't even reach some people. They just doing indiscriminate cuts. And see, then MAGA's like, yeah, it's happening. But then MAGA doesn't even realize, even in red states, how they get screwed as well. Here's today's FAFO.
Someone to explain something to me. I live in Alabama, and my utility bill usually averages between $200 to $250 a month. Can someone please explain to me how my utility bill went from $250 a month to $696?
Girl, did you say Alabama? You know exactly why your electricity bill is going up. Did you get this letter in the mail by chance? Yeah, it was sent to the residents of Huntsville, Alabama. It says that your electricity bill was going up because of Donald Trump. It has his name actually right here. Pretty clear, you know what I mean? It said, hey, he ended through executive orders, some federal grants that were lowering your electric bill. This is the best round of FAFO, and I wasn't going to ream you too hard, but then I went and saw your repost. You posted a lot of stuff from little human being guy, you know, Charlie Kirk. A lot of Daily Wire stuff, a lot of Donald Trump thirst traps, if you will. It said, oh, I know exactly who you voted for. You're the perfect candidate for this video. This is a result of what you voted for, honey. This is a thoughts and terrorist, tater tots and chairs kind of moment. I just want you to enjoy and like soak that all in. Take it all in. This is what you voted for. Anyways, my name is Mercedes Chandler. Give me a follow or you won't see my face again. Thank you. Goodbye. And FAFO.
She's complaining that her utility bills went up, and the idiot doesn't even realize they cut the grants that lowered her utility bills. This is what I'm talking about. So people are like, yeah, they're moving. It's great. Because they're not even realizing how bad it is. Last point before I go to my panel. They laid off a bunch of people at the Atlanta-based CDC. And they said, oh, they got an email, poor performance. Do you know what they were getting in their performance reviews? 4.75 out of 5. Yeah. This is impacting researchers with excellent performance records. The people who are looking at stuff like bird flu and other diseases and measles outbreaks. You name it, that's what's going on. And guess who all of a sudden is speaking up? People like Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who did all he could to elect Donald Trump, and even he realizes his red state ass is getting jacked by the idiots in Trump's administration.
I know they have some layoffs at the CDC and other things, but you know, government can stand a little right sizing. And I know from the state of Georgia's perspective, if you take out higher education and you look at the number of people that we have in state government, it's close to what we had back in 2008. Interesting. But we're doing more work because we got more efficient through technology. We're paying our people more. So instead of hiring more people at the same pay rate, we're paying people more, keeping the same numbers, but doing more work because we're using technology. So why can't the federal government do that? I think they can.
That's all cute, but wait until they start whacking your benefits for farmers. What happened when Trump would not give you additional money for Hurricane Helene? Oh, Brian Kemp, you're going to be crying then. Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali Jones is former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA out of D.C. Randy Bryant, entrepreneur, author of Never Says, 25 Phrases You Should Never Ever Say to Keep Your Job and Friends. She's joining us out of D.C. A. Scott Bolden, attorney, and also, of course, former leader of the PAC for the National Bar Association out of D.C. as well. Here's what is so hilarious about these people, Mustafa. They're slashing, they're making cuts. They're not even thinking about what people are doing, what the impacts are of their work. But then they're saying we're actually saving you money. But again, when you read the fine print, I'm going to pull up in a second, Doge claims they saved $8 billion cutting one program. If you actually read their site, it was $8 million. They're about $7.992 billion short.
We just continue to see the misinformation and disinformation that, has been, the Trump administration has actually built on. It's their foundation. They know where to go if they actually want to save real dollars. What we're seeing right now is all you have to do is look at Project 2025, which we tried for the longest time to get people to pay attention to. Those are the agencies and the departments that they're focusing on. And that's not where the real money is if you're looking at waste and abuse. Anybody who has either worked in the federal government, anybody who's ever done business with the federal government, anybody who's ever read the book knows that you have to begin to actually take a look at the military and defense contracting and all these other places where big bucks are and where you might find, a need to cut in those spaces. It is not education. It is not CDC. It is not HHS. It is not EPA. It is not a number of these places that have a distinct responsibility for helping to actually protect folks. So when you talk about CDC, as you mentioned, bird flu, measles, whooping cough, Mpox, childhood cancers are up. You need a strong CDC and a strong HHS to make sure that we have the medical protections that are in place, but also that they are the individuals who are out there that are doing the science. And helping us to have an understanding of what the next set of impacts might be so that we can better protect ourselves. But that's not of interest to them. This is political. This is also driven by Project 2025. So folks just need to actually open their eyes, because what they're actually doing is not only losing their rights, but now they are also impacting those agencies that have real impacts in relationship to protecting your life and your children's lives. See, Scott, the mistake from, I believe, for Democrats, you take the story that I read about that vet. If I'm Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, if I'm Ken Martin, the Democratic chair, if I'm Senator Chuck Schumer, every day I'm looking for 3 to 5 stories like that. And you know what I'm doing? I'm sending that to every member, and I'm saying amplify, amplify. I'm then sending that to every state Democratic chair, amplify. I'm saying find stories like this, every single one of your states, get to all of your county chairs, and then hit the media as well, amplify. You have to be amplifying the pain that people are receiving, whether they're the regular average folks who get federal services and the federal workers, for folk to understand what is happening. It cannot be a DC conversation. It has to be how they're being affected locally and personally.
Yeah, and it's really about messaging, which is what you're really talking about. You know, Donald Trump, it's a sham, right? We call him Don the Con for a reason. He's Don the Con because he riffs and says all these things that are just hyperbole and not true. So the cutting of the federal budget or these agencies, right? Let's be real clear. I was listening to Mustafa. I think we're giving him too much credit. He's not cutting fraud, waste, and abuse. He's cutting programs and agencies that he doesn't like. So he's cutting DEI. He doesn't like it. They're not fighting fraud, waste, and abuse at the CDC or at Department of Education or any of these other, or USAID. They just don't like the program. And so Republicans and Donald Trump define fraud, waste, and abuse with what they don't like, what they call wokeism, what they don't believe we should be spending money in. And that's the illegality part of what they're doing in large part, because only Congress that's allocated money can cut those programs, cut those agencies, decimate those agencies, reduce these costs, and fire these people. And they're getting around it by the rhetoric and the messaging of fraud, waste, and abuse. And then they lie about it, right? And their people, half of America or more, believe it. And then, as Roland says, there's no counter messaging to it. And so it becomes, quote, the truth. The media picks it up. Their supporters repeat it. Everybody who's ever illegally come into this country is a criminal. 400,000 people from the Congo, he said today, are the worst of the worst criminals. If you don't have a counter message, it becomes the belief. It becomes their truth. And then it becomes America's truth. You have Roland Martin saying, wait a minute, this is all BS, but he's a voice, and others are voices in the wilderness because the DNC won't get its messaging program together. It's not just, that veteran who got cut, if you will. Yep. It's the messaging behind it. You got to get the messaging behind it to counter the lies.
And I love how I didn't know these things were going on. I don't know nothing, see nothing. Listen, Randy, watch this here, and then I want you to respond, and then we're going to go to our next guest. Listen.
Sorry. Mr. President, given your concerns about corruption, you said that if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
Doge and SpaceX employees are now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, I'm just hearing about it, and if there is, and he told me before I told him, but obviously I will not let there be any conflict of interest. He's done an amazing job. they've revealed, in fact, he's going to be on tonight, a big show called Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock. And he's on and I'm on, and we talk about a lot of different things. And any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do.
I'm confused, Randy, how they said also he's going to self-report. Wow, that's going to do it.
Right. Wouldn't we all like to be our own evaluators of how well we're doing on a job? And let me just say this. It's a major conflict just for the simple fact that he is in the position. It's unconstitutional. The Senate must approve for someone to have the power that Musk is having and has been granted. So already we're talking about a conflict. He's going in and he is saying that he's trimming the fat in our government. But even when you look at the workers that he is firing with no cause, federal government compensation, they take up that's 4.3% of the federal budget. 4.3%. So when they say they're cutting the fat and they're doing it to help, alleviate this government, they're not. There's no reason for them to do it. They're firing these people, and they're a tiny percent of the federal budget. So we know that there's no real reason.
See, actually, I got to stop you there. I'm just being straight up, Randy. What you just laid out, that argument does not work. Here's why the argument doesn't work.
I'm here to listen.
No, we should never use that argument. Because when we say, oh, this is just a tiny part of the federal budget, then somebody says, yeah, but it's $8 billion. $8 billion to somebody who's making $40,000, that's a lot of money. That's not what we should actually be saying. We should be saying, this is what they do. What they're cutting are the people who inspect your food. Guess what? If those people are not there, you're going to get salmonella, food poisoning. Oh, these are the people that inspect your water, that inspect the air quality, that do safety checks. That's what we have to be doing. We can't use the argument that this is just a small... Congress does it all the time, and I'm telling you, it doesn't work, because if you apply, well, that's 3%, then that's 2%, and that's 5%, and that's 3%. Well, hell, right there, that's damn near 15%. So that doesn't work. We have to be saying the impact of the cuts on how it's going to affect us. So if you're laying off FAA personnel, guess what? Air travel is going to be unsafe. That's how we have to connect.
Yeah, I see both. I do see that.
No, I see the other as well. But I'm telling you, a person, when they go 3%, how much is that 3%? How much is that 3%?
As far as the messaging, but what I'm always hearing them say is that they're trimming the fat because we don't want big government. And I'm saying that's not what's making the government big. But also, yes, absolutely, to your point, we're seeing the bird flu, of course, going crazy, and it's now in our products. Cows now actually have it, and we need to recognize that. We're seeing planes drop out of the sky. We're seeing where our food supply and farmers are struggling to keep things going. We're seeing measles, an outbreak of measles that's unprecedented, that we haven't seen in centuries, because we have someone, our health chair, who doesn't believe in vaccines. We are seeing the repercussions of what's happening right now with these cuts. Absolutely, that part is real, and it's absolutely scary because no one is at the reins. And it's easy to say, let's cut, right? It's like if you're building a house and they say, well, you're over budget. Okay, let's be fair. Let's cut some of our housing costs, but you don't cut the toilets. You don't cut some people, some fundamental things, and that's what's happening. There seems to be cuts in activity, but no real plan.
Well, no, there's no real plan. And then, of course, what you then happen is right here. Go to my iPad, Henry. USDA says it accidentally fired officials working on bird flu and is trying to rehire them, according to NBC News. I told you they're idiots. Folks, it's not just that. It's also when it comes to our elections. Pam Bondi announced they were disbanding the unit that specifically is charged with ensuring foreign interference does not impact our elections. Yeah, that's real. Now there are fresh concerns regarding what happened in 2024 presidential election, specifically in Clark County, Nevada. A lot of people were concerned with what was happening there because they were shocked with the Republican turnout in Clark County. They said, hey, significant number of union workers there. It has always been a Democratic stronghold. Now a nonpartisan group called the Election Truth Alliance, or ETA, has wrapped up their independent investigation of voting data from Clark County. They found some unusual patterns that they say could point to, quote, potential vote manipulation. Nathan Taylor, the executive director of the Election Truth Alliance. He joins us right now. So Nathan, just explain to us how y'all define this potential vote manipulation. What did y'all see in terms of these numbers?
Thank you so much for having me. So in terms of what we were looking at in Clark County, Nevada, they published just after the election their vote record, their cast vote record, and that goes down to the tabulation machines and the 3 types of voting. So mail-in, early vote, and election day. And so what we did is we looked at the statistical distribution of that data, and we compared those 3 types. And we saw that mail-in, it looks statistically normal. Normal distribution, a bell curve pattern. We saw that election day didn't look very anomalous at first, but then we looked at early voting. And early voting is where a majority of the votes were cast during the election for Clark County, Nevada. And when we looked at it, we actually pulled out the distribution, and we saw it shows statistical evidence of potential manipulation. And what that means is a portion of both candidates' votes look like they could have been changed. And we see that because instead of a bell curve, it comes out more of a Russian tail, as we would call it. And so we delved deeper, and we actually pulled data for Washoe County, Nevada. That's the 2nd most populous location. And a little bit about my background. I work in cybersecurity. I was a 25 Bravo computer tech specialist in the Army Reserves. Got my degree in network security and then commissioned at the Army National Guard. And so I worked data analysis for my normal job before kind of stepping into this role and helping found and run the Election Truth Alliance. And so what was concerning about this election and led us to looking into the actual data was, as you mentioned, 7 swing states kind of popped up after the election, and we thought that was strange, given some of the polls, given some of the other analysis. And when we dove deeper, now we're seeing the potential for the vote counting machines to have been manipulated. And so the main concern is the type of manipulation we're seeing in Clark County, Nevada. It's not unique to Clark County, Nevada. We've done analysis on other locations. We're looking at Pennsylvania right now. We were looking at Wisconsin. We were looking at Florida. We were looking at Texas and California. And so many of these higher population centers in these states exhibit the same indications at a higher level. And that's a drop-off vote abnormality, where, for example, one party at the presidential level, they get a certain amount of votes. And then you look at the next down ballot for their party, like the senator or the governor or the superintendent, and you find that those lower positions have more votes than the president. And that's very concerning. And that ultimately also led to us diving a little deeper. So we did provide some graphics, but I don't really think we need the graphics just to kind of talk about some of the potential.
That's why a lot of people were asking. They were like, "Wait a minute, hold up. How did he win? How did Trump win all of the battleground states, but the only 2 places the Republican candidate won in the Senate was Ohio and Pennsylvania? They lost in Wisconsin, they lost in Michigan, they lost in Nevada, they lost in Arizona." And there was no Senate race on the ballot in North Carolina and in Georgia. And in fact, when you look at North Carolina, Democrats won governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and secretary of state.
So what is interesting as well is when people talk about candidate Harris at the time and how she performed, right? Talking about popularity and saying, oh, well, people didn't vote for her. She wasn't popular. People were switching their votes at the presidential level and then voting Democrat all the way down. Well, I looked at this as well, and we pulled some of the data for both all the swing states in this election and last election. And we said, how many votes did Harris get in comparison to Biden in those 7 swing states?
And this, just correct me if I'm wrong, this is the graphic you were referencing, right? swing versus non?
This one, yes, this is a drop-off vote analysis, and this was actually made by Smart Elections, which is another organization that does election integrity and analysis.
Go ahead.
So they published this, and what this is showing is this is some of the swing states versus non-swing states, and it looks very suspect that Harris would underperform consistently across just the swing states, and then outside the swing states, she's almost 1 to 2%, like Trump is.
For instance, in this first graphic right here, it shows that in the swing states, it shows red 752, blue negative 189. Yet in non-swing states, it shows red 464 and blue 351. That's just a 103,000 vote difference compared to a nearly 900,000 vote difference. And then when we go over to this graphic right here, this is the percentage. So you see an increase.
So the way you read this, if I may.
Go ahead.
Is the 0% is the next down ballot candidate. So in this case, I believe this is senators. So 0% is how many votes that party's senator or whatnot got. So we see in the swing states, Harris got negative 1.48% less votes than the senator across, and on average, across all 7 swing states. And then Trump got almost 6% more than that senator or that next down ballot candidate. And then outside the swing states, all the other states, we're seeing it look more normal and matching past election trends where you're somewhere between 1 to 2% over the Senate, over the senator or the governor or whatever other races there are. So that's how you read this. That's why it's concerning.
So you're saying that, again, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is that if Harris was just so unpopular, then what you would see in swing and non-swing states would be a decrease or people staying at home and not supporting her. But you're saying, wait a minute, how the hell do you see a plus percentage in non-swing states, but then you see this big negative, as if outside of the 7 battleground states, it was like, yay, we're cool with Harris, but those specific 7 battleground states were like, yeah, we ain't down with her.
I think you highlighted exactly the concern. Why would just the swing states exhibit a pattern? And so that's a huge red flag, because what wins you elections? It's the swing states. And so I actually did the numbers for how Harris compared to Biden from the 2024 election, how many votes she got across all 7 swing states versus what Biden got in 2020. And we find that in 24, Harris exceeded Biden in Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Georgia. I believe those numbers are up to date.
Guys, if we have that graphic, control and pull it up. Go ahead.
I don't believe you have that graphic.
Okay.
And I'll quote some more graphics that I know you do have here in a moment. But this is a good number for you just to kind of show you how the theory that she's unpopular and that's why she would be underperforming doesn't add up. And that's that she got 99.6% of all the votes cast in 2020, the Democratic votes that turned up in 2020 for those 7 swing states. She got 99.6% of them in 24. So it doesn't make sense that she would be underperforming by a large amount in these states, but then get 99.6% of the same votes.
So with that, you believe that something was done to the voting machines? Do you believe that, like, for instance, I've heard people, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and when people, I'm very skeptical when people throw it. I've heard people say, hey, wait a minute. People were using Starlink to transmit the data, the voting data from precincts to the state elections board, and that Starlink, of course, owned by Elon Musk. Of course, Joe Rogan made this famous phrase that Elon Musk created this app that an hour after the polls closed showed, oh, Trump is going to win, I'm going to sleep. And he was like, man, how did he know? And then, of course, Trump, leading up to the election, was like, hey, don't worry about it. We don't need your votes. We got this. So people are pointing to those things as evidence that something was amiss. So are you saying that you believe that the voting numbers were somehow changed either in the machines or in the transmission to the state elections board?
If we bring up slide 5 here, that's the one that's showing Clark County Election Day voting. And so
is that it right here?
Distribution. Yep,
okay.
That's exactly it. This is what I was talking about a little earlier, where when we look at the vote record Clark County gave us and published after the election, this is more what you would expect to see when looking at that data. And so there's two different colors. One is red and one is blue. Obviously, the blue is the Democrats for presidential race, which would be Harris, and the red is Trump. And so they are overlapped, but when you pull both of them out, they should look like a bell curve. And in this case, for Election Day, they look pretty much like a bell curve. You're not seeing any huge issues.
Is this right here the bell curve? This one right here? This what you're talking about?
That is I don't believe we referenced the bell curve, but that line, this is an excellent slide. If you look at the line, and this is us pulling early voting out, the black line is what you would expect to see as a bell curve.
Okay.
So that line there, that's overlaid on top of the voting data,
right?
That is what you would more expect to see.
Okay.
Now, if you go back to slide 4, I'll actually show you exactly what we were seeing and talk about what would potentially cause this. So comparing this to Election Day, you notice this does not look the same. It's not a more rounded bell curve, a more random and expected distribution. And so what we're seeing, this is Clark County in 24 at the bottom for early voting and 2020 at the top. And you'll notice.
Wow.
Let's look at 2020 first. So if you zoom in just a little bit, the way you read this graph is the x-axis, the bottom axis, that is how many votes the machine counted. And so each of these little dots, there's a red and a blue, and each of them are a machine that counted the votes where you voted. And so in this case, there's a ridiculous amount of votes for early voting. And we see that those tabulators or those voting machines, in this case, they have, in Clark County, Nevada, they have like polling centers they set up. So you can generally go anywhere. And so what we see is as the amount of votes were cast, the places where there were more votes cast, we see after about, I think for early voting, it's closer to 500-600 votes or so.
So we're going to do this here. We're actually going to switch from my control room to my iPad.
There we go.
So this is okay. So now I'm able to zoom in.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is the top one, and this is the bottom one. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So let's look at the top first, and x-axis is how many votes the machine counted. Each of these is a different machine. Some machines only counted a handful of votes. Some counted 800 plus. And so the left, the y-axis is the percentage of votes. So the higher up you go, the closer, the further up and the closer you get to 100%, you win more votes. And so what we saw when we pulled this data and we did this analysis, in 2020, up until about 450 to 500 votes counted by machine or cast at the machines, it looks normal.
Right. So that's that.
500.
Go ahead. Okay. Then 500, all of a sudden, we see a lot of red above 55%.
Right. We see separation.
Okay.
And so what's interesting is if you kind of break this down into the correlation or the trend, as more votes were cast at higher populations, the Republican Party benefited. And so what was weird about this is in 2020. What was weird about this is counterintuitive to how voting patterns normally are. Well, one, you don't generally see a trend as more votes are cast. You just see a better reflection of how people, generally feel.
Okay.
And the problem is Democrats generally benefit at high populations because they live in high populated areas. So this makes very little sense for either of those reasons.
So this is 2024 right here. Above.
This is 2020 at the top.
Yeah, at the top. This is 2020 that we're seeing right here. And
this is 2020. This is 24.
And this is 24. Wow.
And so if you use the same concept, we see about from 250 to 300 onwards, that normal distribution just disappears, right? And you see clear separate. You see aggressive separation.
Right. So this is normal right here. As you say, this is normal.
The first part is.
This is normal. Then all of a sudden you see these. All of a sudden you see these gaps.
Yes. And so you're not supposed to see separation like this. And when we pull out the distribution, the slide we were looking at before, you can go, I think, two slides or so, you had the bell curve slide. And I'll show you exactly why this is concerning and what this potentially means. So there's a slide with both Harris and Trump, and they have a bell curve overlaid. It's a red and a blue graph. And that's actually that distribution we were just talking about for early voting, but in a different way to analyze it.
All right.
And so what we see,
let me find that,
is when we look, instead of the normal bell curve for early voting, we see.
Is this it right here? I want to make sure I'm wearing it. Is this it?
This is election day. This is great. So this is your other way of looking at it. Notice election day generally fits the bell curve pattern, right?
Right.
Yeah. There's a little bit of weirdness at the top.
Right.
And I can say we looked at Washoe County, which was the other county in Clark County, Nevada, and we do see the same issue, more aggressive for election day there and in 2020. So what we're thinking potentially happened, if you go to the next distribution slide and we look at early voting, but for this type of graph.
This here?
Here, perfect. So this, as I said, when you look at this statistically, and we have, so in the Election Truth Alliance, we have people with experience in statistics, data analysis. We have people with medical and engineer degrees. We have a little bit of everything. And so what we've done is we said, instead of this matching a normal distribution like you would expect to see, it shows potential manipulation. And what's concerning is, if we look at the top one, there's a concept here where if you want to win an election, or in this case, for voting data and distribution, the further right a majority of your votes are, after the 50% mark, you win. That's how you win in this case. And so what we're seeing, specifically in early voting, because it's so aggressive, we're seeing that a portion of the distribution is missing. And so this suggests, since in this case, this is candidate Trump, it suggests that his distribution shows that he's benefiting from potential manipulation. That votes, if you look at the bottom, Harris is missing a portion of hers, and since she's at a lower percentage, we see that skew. And so the way this could indicate is it has a rightward skew, and Trump has a leftward skew. And a leftward skew, or another term, is a Russian tail. And so a Russian tail is a term coined by Russian data scientists and data analysts in reference to a few different potentially manipulated Russian elections. And so they coined the term of a leftward skew, like if you go up, and I believe we also have a reference in this document, but it's if you benefit from potentially moving votes around, you're going to have this leftward skew like we're seeing in Clark County, Nevada for early voting.
Now, what's interesting here, when you, I remember, so John Ralston is considered like the preeminent journalist when looking at data. And I remember every day he was tweeting and was shocked at the Republican numbers. And it was like, Democrats are in trouble in Clark County. And it was like, they're down. And people were like, oh my, I remember there was some culinary worker who had made a comment about, we were in some serious trouble. And a lot of people, they were just shocked and stunned at the early voting numbers that were coming back that was giving this indication that Republicans were just going crazy voting in Nevada.
So what's interesting is when people talk about election night, there's an expected pattern you see as votes come in because of time zones. And so Smart Elections actually recently posted a video on their YouTube, and it was referencing someone talking about what you would expect to see on election night. And so generally, like the Northeast, as their polls close, they're more Democrat. So you would see a little bit of a blue lead, and then Florida would come in and it would go red. And then you would get the middle Rust Belt areas and it would go a little deeper red. And then the West Coast would come in last. And then you'd see that blue wave resurface, right? And so you'd see a little bit of a red mirage is what it is. What's interesting is this election night, you didn't see that. And what you saw is after the first bit of votes came in, it stayed very positive for the Republicans, and it only grew. you didn't see a bounce back. You didn't see a resurgence. And so some people would quote that to see it almost looked algorithmic in the way the votes slowly crept up. And what's concerning is, as you mentioned before, how could you have done this if you could have done this? So I get this a lot, especially with my background. People talk about, our election is secure. Our election isn't hackable. We spent 4 years arguing, everything's good. And so what's funny is when you actually look at our election systems, it's not that our election systems are secure or they're not. It's that every state runs their own election. We have a few different types of machines, and we have paper trails. And that's how we should be securing our elections. The problem is, let's actually look at how every state runs their elections. All of them have different procedures. There's no standard guideline for how you should do it.
Right.
But even then, they still have checks and balances they take account. The problem is we only really use, for our tabulation machines and our voting machines, we only really have 2 main brands. And both of them, as we found in the last little bit of our analysis, both of them, I think 70% of the vote counting machines used in the country for elections have had issues of cybersecurity specialists mentioning potential vulnerabilities. And so
first of all,
if you were to manipulate our machines,
first of all, what are those 2? You said there are 2. Who are they?
I can't say the name of the brands myself.
Okay.
But the top 2 that you're going to, see, they should be pretty apparent. And as you mentioned, as you asked before, how would you do this? Well, you would, as you said, I think you would do it at the tabulation level. So some states, they have voting machines and then they transfer their votes, or they scan in paper ballots. And the tabulators are what's doing all that work. And so, as I said, there's 2 main brands. And if you were to compromise those tabulators, you could change the outcome of an election because you could just change votes. And it's that simple. Or you could change the data in transit from the tabulators. Either way would look the same on paper.
Okay.
Any questions or input on that?
So I'm going to go to my panel in a minute with questions. All right. So when you hear Republicans say we need to get away from these machines and go to paper ballots, what do you say?
I don't disagree that paper ballots or a paper trail is good. The problem is we actually have to use them. This election, I think there were 3 substantial audits that I looked at, Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. And all 3 of those audits, in my opinion, were not effective in doing what they needed to do, which was to validate the presidential race. Pennsylvania conducted I believe it was a risk limiting audit for maybe 2%, and they did the Treasury, and they didn't even poll an appropriate amount of Philadelphia, which is like over 10% of their voting population. So it's things like that where if you don't set standards for what would actually catch manipulation, like we're saying potentially happened, and we're seeing indication of with the statistical evidence. And as I said, we're working on Pennsylvania and doing a statistical analysis like this, and I recently posted a video where we're seeing the same trend of as more votes are counted, the Republicans start to lead as if a change was occurring in Philadelphia and in Erie County. And so I think the problem is if you spent 4 years discrediting election integrity, because that's the difference. This is an election denial. This is election integrity. Right. It's not that we want to question the results. We want to validate that our machines are accurate, and that's why you should do audits. It's not about anything else. And so these audits were not efficient. These audits did not pass the standards, and they didn't even appropriately audit the races that could have been manipulated. And so to hold up, and Georgia and Arizona, they had their own different forms of audits, risk limiting audits, I believe. And I actually looked at those, and other data analysts and statisticians looked at them and said, hey, this isn't matching up either. There's some concerns of, these numbers don't really show. There were some errors in the reporting, and some previously reported numbers didn't match some in numbers, among other things. And so realistically, the way you should deal with our system is you use the machines. The machines are good. And then you immediately conduct audits at any point, and you appropriately sample the population, and you look at the presidential race. You can look at other races too, and you would pretty much quickly see concern. The problem is our system wants recounts. And so if you don't meet a threshold to do a recount automatically, and the candidate doesn't ask for one, it doesn't get done. It doesn't get checked. And so that's the issue we ran into this election.
Questions from the panel. Scott, you first.
Yeah, maybe. I listened to your data. I'm a former state party chair. I've run at least 4 local or presidential elections from the nation's capital, at least on the Democratic side. You'd have to agree that there are other variables that would counter your at least preliminary conclusions. For example, maybe the Republicans, those low propensity voters that the Republicans went after in order to outvote the Dems, outvoted the Dems and came out in huge numbers. And that was the differential, and that made the difference in the swing states and elsewhere. That simple piece alone would counter what you say is algorithmic oddity.
Manipulation.
Manipulation, forgive me.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. Tell me your answer to that.
Point, right, if turnout was effective, I don't know if you have the slides that reference this, but we actually mapped the early voting in Clark County to Las Vegas, and we looked at where these polling centers were and the turnout and how each party performed at these polling locations.
Is it a graph or is it a? I'm trying to.
It is a map, very simple map with some overlay. It may have been included. If it is, it's an excellent point. If it isn't, I can talk through it.
All right, I'm trying to look for it, but go ahead.
Okay. But what we did, as I said, is Clark County, Nevada specifically, they don't poll or they don't vote by precinct. You can go pretty much anywhere to one of these polling centers, early voting or election day, and they'll map your vote back, and it gets added up. And what we found, as you mentioned, right, is if the Republicans turned out in huge numbers, well, there's 2 trends that are strange. One is, generally, as you said, the rural areas, those are where you're going to see those Republicans really turn out. You can still see them in some of the more populated areas.
Is this it here?
Good.
Hold up. Is it the one that says Clark County binning by votes?
Early voting map?
That's not it, right?
This is another example of what we're seeing, but.
Okay, keep talking. Keep talking through, and I'll try to find that map. Go ahead.
No worries if you can't find it. But to answer your question very distinctly, we mapped those locations for early voting. We mapped the machines and the amount of votes those machines got. And Clark County specifically is a very liberal, very left-leaning location. And Las Vegas, specifically the actual
let's
city
see.
area,
is this it right here? Nathan, is this it right here? Is this it?
No, sir. It's fine.
Okay.
I'll talk through a little bit.
Okay, all right.
We may not have provided it for you. I think it's 3 different things.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, this map there, as you saw, is highlighting the 2 different highly populated areas. It's Washoe and it's Clark County.
This one here?
And so, yep. And so at the bottom is Clark County, Nevada. It is the #1 location in terms of population.
Right.
It's very liberal. And so the city of Las Vegas, we mapped it out location by location, and we compared the voting demographic, the registered voters in those areas. We looked at people are registered by precinct, but they don't vote by precinct. So we looked at those precincts. We looked at what the percentage of Democrat to Republican is, and it is heavily in Democrat favor. It's nonpartisan and Democratic in Las Vegas, and yet we're seeing polling locations that the Republicans were leading by over 5,000 votes in some cases. And so it's strange to see that there is no heavy red stronghold in the middle of Las Vegas, but we're seeing the early voting polling locations show that when we look at the data. And so
but you yourself said,
concerns us.
You yourself said that in the state of Nevada that they don't vote by precinct. You can go anywhere and vote. And it's possible that red voters or GOP voters went to urban centers in Nevada or high Democratic output and voted. I think your analysis is valuable. I do. And it's interesting. I guess what begs the question is, if everything you say is right regarding the algorithms and stuff, and you say this is how it could happen, voter manipulation, then what's next? What do you do with this data? How does it work for us? How does it help us? And how does it maybe in the future fix kind of what the issues are you're raising?
Yeah, excellent point. The reason why we want to kind of bring this to light and we want these questions is we want audits. It's never too late to conduct a audit or an investigation.
Yeah.
Obviously, the election is certified. The election is over. That's perfectly fine. But there is far more benefit in conducting audits and looking at the paper ballots and comparing them to the results, not just in Clark County, but in any of the swing states and even in other states. And so, as I said before, we want to validate the election. That's what my job has been since election night, is we want to make sure that our machines are safe. We want to make sure that people are asking these questions, because it benefits everyone that we validate, and it doesn't hurt anyone. And we do an audit, right? We go to Nevada, we go to Clark County, we say, hey, let's audit let's audit all three types, and we find no discrepancies and no issues. The paper trail matches the reported votes. That's perfect. And we hold that up and we say, our elections are free and fair. This was just a discrepancy, and we can figure out why that is. As you said, maybe this was a historic moment, and there was a lot of momentum, and people came out to vote in unique ways. But realistically, unless you validate and you check, it hurts us all. And so that's why we want accountability and we want audits, and we are willing to pay for them as well. I've reached out to a couple different organizations and entities to help us, push for those.
Mustafa.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing this information. My dad was big into mathematics, probability, statistics, so this is helpful. I'm curious. We've got this dismantling of the election security efforts that are going on right now. How does that impede the work that you're doing? I mean, see what's going on with the FBI and the task force that's there, DOJ, FEC, EAC, all these different folks are supposed to play a role. As we move toward midterms, of course, we've got to get this right, make sure that there's, no funny business, I'll say it that way. So I'm just curious about the steps you think we should take, and how, these changes that we're seeing inside of the federal government might play a role.
It's very concerning to see the dismantling of these organizations that should be safeguarding our elections. That is a concern, because what benefit is there to destabilizing our election systems, if not to make it easier to manipulate them? That is a concern. And I think, as you said, kind of going forward, this is why I helped found the Election Truth Alliance. It's because no one else was doing this work. No one else was actually looking into the numbers, holding up the data and saying, this looks weird, we should dig deeper. And that should have been the federal government. That should have been these agencies, but they've not been doing it even before they were being dismantled. And that's a concern as well. And so kind of going forward, as I said, we honestly just need to demand audits for both our local and state election officials. They can do it. They have the power. Your attorney generals and your secretaries of state, they could do an audit, and it, as I said, just be safeguarding. If for some reason we do audits and we do find discrepancies, that brings to light a lot of concerns, and it brings up the issue. And people ask me, why should we care about this now? All right, the election's over. Why should we care? And the problem is, if we don't validate this, and there was manipulation to the extent that we say could have potentially happened, that the data is indicating, that means there is no midterms. There is no next time. There is no, election 2016, because if you can manipulate an election, you choose the winner. And, there's no coming back from that. He who counts the vote wins.
Thank you.
Randy.
I really appreciate the work you've done, because all Americans need to feel secure in our voting system. I was really interested when I was reading your report about the drop-off voting, where, most people, I think about, human behavior, we vote down the ticket. If you vote for a Democrat, the Democratic candidate for the presidential election, typically that's what you're going to vote for in the Senate. But there was from what you're saying, your report says there was a huge disparity this year, up to in some counties like 10%. What is normal? Like, what do we normally see when it comes to drop-offs?
So what's interesting is most people think the Republican Party is very straight ticket. That's actually, from our data, that's not truly correct. The Democrats are very straight ticket. They will vote all the way down ballot. There's very little budging for them. And so that was another weirdness with this election, to see potentially hundreds of thousands of people. I think the final numbers I was looking at was somewhere around 1.5 million votes. And you're telling me 1.5 million people split vote and voted all the way blue down ballot, but then voted, a different party at the presidential level. And so generally, percentage-wise, on average, it does depend on states. Some states, swing states, can be more chaotic. But as I said, you're going to see somewhere between a 1% to 2% overperformance for the president is normal. There's some historic, above performances, but generally you don't see the president underperforming, a senator or another position, because presidential races are a big deal. And so I had some numbers. We've been looking at different states and looking at drop-off. And so one that people don't even realize, we were looking at some of the non-swing states, and we were seeing Harris got negative 19% of the votes that the senator did there. And just some other crazy numbers, like Texas as well. She was under 4%. And my concern is, and the reason why we're concerned, that if there was a way to manipulate the votes, people don't realize how big of a deal it could be. And that's because, let's say I take one vote. Let's say we both have one vote. And so I take your vote and I give it to myself. I've not taken one vote. I'm 2 votes ahead now. And so you're almost doubling the impact. And so I did the numbers in terms of how many votes, if there was a algorithm that was taking votes from one candidate at the presidential level and giving them to the other in the 7 swing states. I did the math for 6 that I could do using the drop-off vote analysis. And I said, all right, let's say Trump is around a 2% overperformance across most states on average. So let's take all the votes that he gets in excess of 2%, and let's do that reverse calculation. And so I found, as I said, 1.5 million votes is what that would have been potentially. And when we take those votes per state and we do the inverse and we give them back to, let's say, the Democratic Party, as I said, you're doubling the impact. And we see that in 6 swing states that I did the numbers for and looking at the drop-off vote, if that was caused by algorithmic manipulation, Harris leads in those 6 swing states when you do the inverse there. Also, that's not including any concerns about mail-in ballots never being delivered. That's not any concerns about voter suppression, which I do believe was a big deal in this election. I've spoken to Greg Palast, and he's really highlighting those concerns, and those are very critical.
We had him on the show.
Yeah. So that's hopefully I answered your questions there, and that was the big concern.
So last question from me. Have you made a request to the Nevada Secretary of State, to the Nevada Attorney General, Aaron Ford, to do something?
I have had people within my organization draft and send out emails and correspondence reaching out to them. Yes, not just Nevada, but other states as well, other secretaries of state. I mean, we will continue to do so. And we have that PDF that you saw, and we have some other documentation we send them saying, hey, here's our concerns, here's our analysis. We'd be interested in facilitating an audit. For Clark County, Nevada specifically, they have poll tapes. And so it's not a paper ballot trail, but you can still go in and look at the vote count. And if there was algorithmic manipulation, like we're saying, if the tabulation machines across the country could have been manipulated, what you would find when you compare it to the paper trail is you would find 2 things. I didn't talk about this a lot when we did it, but we were also seeing not only the potential for votes to have been changed from one candidate to the other, causing one candidate to underperform and the other candidate to exceed and overperform, which is what we're seeing in multiple swing states, but we're also seeing indication that for whatever reason, the Democratic Party in Clark County, Nevada, for early voting specifically, gets capped out, and it looks like votes could also have been deleted. So you would change votes until you're at a 60% margin for one party, and then you would just start deleting extra votes. And we're seeing indication of that too. So if we look at the paper trail in Clark County, Nevada, or in any other place this could have happened, potentially happened, you'll find that not only are there more votes on the paper trail and more paper ballots than were reported, but there would be missing votes for the Democrats that show up for the Republican Party.
All right. Nathan Taylor, we certainly appreciate this breakdown. Thank you so very much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, folks. Man, that was quite fascinating. I see all of y'all comments on the YouTube channel, and y'all really appreciate that as well, folks. And all of you who are in the chat, y'all do me a favor, hit the like button. I see all y'all commenting, but y'all ain't hitting the like button. I'm gonna go to a break. We come back. I have been blasting this little child, Lindy Lee, and I'm gonna call her Lindy Lee. Wait till I show y'all this video. And man, does a former DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, flame her on Twitter. I'm going to show you that when we come back. Don't forget, support the work that we do by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is very simple, to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. It comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. It really is about supporting Black-owned media, allowing us to be able to do stories like that. Somebody posted in social media that these networks wouldn't spend more than 2 minutes on the segment we just did. That was almost a 40-minute conversation there. That's why your support of this show is critically important, and this network. We also, of course, have got a new show that we launched, and we're gonna have a second episode airing on Thursday. So this is not just this show here. We've got some new episodes of Greg Carr's show coming up, the Black Table, and so it's a lot that's going on. So we really appreciate it when you support the work that we do, because it really is about providing news and information that you're not getting any other place as well. And so if you want to give us via Cash App, please do so. Use a Stripe QR code. This is it right here. Click the Cash App button to continue to contribute. You can also, of course, send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
This week on the other side of change.
Abolition focus. Should we aim for reform or abolishing the entire system? Kimon Felix lets us know how much possibility lies in abolition.
That is such a radical image because it offers the suggestion that we already know to be true, which is that we have what it takes to take care of each other and to take care of ourselves.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to the other side of change.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
I'm Russell L. Honoré, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Am I the only one who gets a kick out of these so-called former Democrats who are now kissing lots of MAGA ass? There's nobody who has done more of that than Lil Lion Lindy Lee, okay? So she's a fundraiser for the DNC. Our script says a well-known, but she ain't well-known. Didn't nobody know about her ass until she started going on Fox News. And so she's raised money for the Democrats 2024. And so she was all over social media just praising and loving President Joe Biden and loving Vice President Kamala Harris and posting all of these photos. But after the election, she was going off on the vice president, awful candidate, awful campaign. Democrats are sick of this, all this sort of stuff. Then she all of a sudden flipped to saying I was a conservative Democrat the whole time, and Fox News was showing her some love, and then she left the party, and oh, how she was just getting all this MAGA love, and she had never got that kind of love from the Democrats, and she was just going on and on and on. So the other day, old lion-ass Lindy Lee, or Lindy Lion-ass Lee, was on Piers Morgan's show, Uncensored, and listen to this exchange, y'all.
So out of interest, who did you vote for in the election?
In 2024?
Yeah.
I voted for one person. I actually ignored everybody else on the ballot.
Well, who did you vote for?
Because I couldn't bring myself to vote for the Democrats. I was so disgusted.
So you voted Trump?
Can I plead the fifth?
No.
I will just say that. Let me just say one thing. I was so disgusted with the Democratic.
Come on,
what did you say?
Who did you vote for?
I will say that I voted for one person on the ballot.
Yeah, who?
Because I was so disgusted with the Democrats, I couldn't vote for.
I hate you, but who? Who did you vote for?
Do I have to answer?
Yes. It's uncensored. Come on, spit it out.
See, I can't win with this because I raised.
You could be
money
honest. I mean, if you're honest, you win, right? I mean, that's.
Well, no. Well, my donors and all the Democrats will accuse me of sabotage if I.
Come on, Lindy. Who did you vote for?
I voted for Bob Casey. I didn't vote for president. I just couldn't because I'm just so disgusted.
Well, let's get a reaction.
I'm so disgusted by the Democratic Party that I couldn't bring myself to vote for any of them.
Just stop speaking for a second. You voted for Bob Casey, who is a member of the Democratic Party, which is the party that
who's one of the most conservative members, who's pro-life, famously pro-life.
I know exactly, sweetheart. I have a house in Pennsylvania. I actually campaigned for Bob Casey.
If you're going to talk like that to me, please don't sweetheart me very much.
So I'm not. Listen to me because you have to stop speaking for a second. Let me be very clear with you. You were out there until the very last second, positioning yourself as a surrogate for Kamala Harris, despite the woke stuff that you now disdain, despite the fact that you think that Democrats stand for only trans issues and nothing else that apparently you campaigned on all these years for Democrats, first for Biden, then for Harris. So the bottom line is, everything that you now disavow, you tried your very best and tried very, very hard to get in front of every TV camera that would take you to campaign for Kamala Harris, who you now claim supported trans and DEI issues that you think are completely misguided. So the bottom line is, everything that you're saying now about how you're going to help MAGA means that you threw out every value that you stood for.
Oh, but that wasn't it. Former DNC chair Jamie Harrison, he sent out this tweet. He says, Lindy Lee, this is sad. You really need to stop lying and get some help. When I got out of the car at the Kamala Harris election night party at the Conrad, you were the very first person I saw. I'll check with the film crew because maybe we even have video. Nonetheless, you were perched by the door, ready to take pictures with any celebrity type or elected official that walked in. Like a student trying to impress a professor, you joyfully rattle off how much you raised this cycle to support the campaign. You told me about hosting a fundraiser at your home and your unwavering support of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So either you were lying then or you are lying now. But either way, it just makes you out to be a liar, a very bad liar. Who in their right mind raises money for someone, travels to that candidate's election night party in D.C. and not your home state of Pennsylvania, but yet is so disgusted by that candidate, you don't vote for them? Piers Uncensored, Piers Morgan, y'all are being hoodwinked. Carry on. Y'all, this is utterly hilarious because she's all over social at the Democratic National Convention. She's everywhere. Now, mind y'all, little lying-ass Lindy blocked me because I was giving her the business on Twitter. But here's what's so stupid about this, Randy. Nobody would get mad at her if she said she voted for Kamala Harris because she was literally out there touting Kamala Harris. But now you're afraid to even admit, okay, so let's say you didn't vote for Kamala Harris and you voted for Donald Trump. And so what? Now you don't want to say it because what? Folks might get mad? I mean, if you voted for him, just say you voted for him. This is why she's a joke. This is why she's a liar. And thank goodness Jamie Harrison called Lil Lying Lindy Lee the liar that she is.
She's a joke. She's a token. She is available to who will give her the most fame. I mean, who does a 180 that fast? I mean, it will make you dizzy. She's turned so quickly. She's not a Democrat or a Republican. She's an opportunist. And she will go basically to who will give her the most fame. I mean, she's a flip-flopper. It's disgusting, and she should be embarrassed. And I am so happy that she is being read publicly. I enjoyed it. I actually went and watched the video a few times just for my viewing pleasure.
I mean, I laugh at folk like her, Mustafa, because it's so transparent what you're trying to do. You're just saying you want attention. You want bookings. That's all you want. And so, and she got, people have called me names. They called me, called me all kind of stuff, called me out of my name. You named it because you look like an idiot. I mean, it's different if we don't actually have video of you talking about how amazing and wonderful and awesome Joe Biden, Kamala Harris was. And now all of a sudden, they're just the devil.
You know, Ida B. Wells once said, and my grandma used to say it all the time also, the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. Once they put that light on her, you know, they have a difficult time in being able to sneak away. You know, we just have to be very careful, right? There are these folks who are not serious about the issues that are happening inside of our communities. They're not serious about the change that needs to happen inside of our country. And in many instances, if somebody, you know, throws a few dimes and nickels and dollars at them, then they will flip and flop. So, you know, this is just another example of somebody who is not truly committed to community, who's not truly committed to democracy, who's not truly committed to making sure that our country moves in the direction that it should. And they got caught.
I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, this is literally, this is beyond hilarious, Scott. So, Lindy Lee, I told y'all she blocked me. She don't realize I can still see her stuff. Scott, this is a tweet this idiot posted a few days ago, a couple days ago. Excited to help ensure Republicans expand our majority in the House and the Senate for upcoming midterms. I'm taking my donors from the DNC and giving them to the RNC instead. Most of them are on board. We love our country and just want President Trump to succeed. And so this is her talking on Fox News. Pull it up.
So a lot of my donors are business oriented. They just want America to prosper. And President Trump wants America to prosper, and he's very business friendly. So these people are not, you know, social justice warriors. They are not like gender crazy lunatics. They just want America to succeed, for us to have strong borders, close, you know, to have sensible immigration policies.
So, Scott, go ahead.
You haven't asked me a question yet, but I've only got two things to say. One, you know, when you flip-flop like that and you lie, Lindy, neither side trusts you or really wants you, or one or both are going to use you. But I'm still trying to figure out why I should care about Lindy Lee, or why I should even give commentary to her. Maybe, Roland, you tell me why I should care about this story. Because my first response is, I don't care.
No. But I think it's important because people have to be very mindful of individuals who claim to be one thing and then another. Like I'm really laughing because this is from February 12th. To all the Dems who attack Elon Musk for being an unelected president, I have two words for you, Joe Biden. Biden wasn't running the country for the last 4 years. His unelected senior advisors were and operated in the shadows. You wouldn't even recognize their names so kindly, STFU, and she goes on, Glenn Beck. People need to understand that these frauds, these liars, they exist. So I always tell folk, because see, it's some black folks as well out there who've been saying one thing and people like they champion for them. Beware of the wolf in sheep's clothing. Beware of the liars. They will always expose who they really are.
But this isn't even a close call, Roland. It's not like you're a conservative Democrat and you're a liberal Republican and your voting record goes back and forth. She was all in. And the chaos, corruption, and criminality of Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris and Biden and all the values that they represent and everything that they are not, that Donald Trump is, this is not a close call. This is just outright lying and flip-flopping in order to show up to the Republican window with the winning ticket after the vote, if you will. That's all this is. So it's not even a close call.
And I just love when they play the victim. Before you continue to defame, harass, or lie about me, please consider that I am a human just like you. I'm not a cartoon. I haven't made a single dime from telling the truth. I'm a human who is allowed to change her mind in the face of new info. I'm just someone who loves our country. Really, boo? Wait, really, boo? I love this. Really, boo? New info? Here was you on January 26, 2024. Can we please stop using euphemisms to describe Trump's crimes? He raped E. Jean Carroll. It wasn't just abuse. He terrorized our capital. It wasn't just a riot. He committed treason by colluding with Russia. It wasn't just a mistake. Stop whitewashing the crimes of this rapist thug. Sent at 11:26 p.m. on January 26, 2024. But, Randy, she has new information.
Yeah, what about that old information? That old information is still the same. It's still the same. That don't change. Facts are stubborn. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Randy, go right ahead.
The only new information she received was who won the election. That was her new information. That was it. And that's when she changed for whom she was advocating. That was the information. When whoever won the election, that's whose team she's going to be on, period.
And I love this tweet here from a Kerr Bear. Lindy Lee said the White House used to seat her in the front row so Joe could see her. Here's Lindy Lee demanding a woman in a wheelchair move so she could be in front. Is that you, Lindy? Just saying. Just saying. Oh, how delicious it is. But what you have folk over here who want to play the grift game, and now all of a sudden you're just, loving all of this. And Joe is great. I'm telling you, if y'all Google the videos, y'all are going to just laugh at all the praise and the love and all of that she had for President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Lindy, by all means, we don't mind if the door slams you in your non-existent ass when you walk out.
Oh, gosh, Roland.
What?
You would never allow us to say that. You could say, let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord splits you.
No.
My mother used to say.
What? It's the same thing. I'm sorry, you use more words.
I just wanted to talk.
Yeah, we know you did. We know you did. So let the door hit her ass and on the way out. And so those are the kind of people, when you're in a battle, you're in a war, those are not the kind of people who you want on your side because they're liars. And so she can get all mad she wants to, but if we started pulling all the photos of her just cheesing and just loving, and if y'all pull the videos, I'm just happy to be at the DNC as an influencer. And this is just great and wonderful. All that sort of stuff that tells you how much of a joke this person is. And listen, there are others like that. And so I need people to understand why it matters, because there are people like her. It's about the check. They're switch sides all the time. And you know what? It's some people in Silicon Valley who are the same way. It's some people who have given money to the UNCF and the NAACP who now are standing against people. It's no different than, I'll give you a perfect example, the app Clubhouse. How many of y'all heard the story of the Andreessen and Horowitz, the venture capital firm out there? They hired Daniel Penny, the former Marine who killed the black guy on a New York subway. Oh, Scott, you're gonna love this. They hired him. Now, mind you, he went to school and studied architecture for 1 year. They actually have hired him. And they said, we're going to teach him how to be a venture capitalist. Got no experience, no knowledge. Now, these people are complaining about DEI, but they hire a white guy who we only know who killed a black guy on the subway, found not guilty by a jury, and they hired him. So this is why I've been telling people, y'all should completely delete the Clubhouse app. Why? Because that VC firm, they put the money behind Clubhouse. And black people, y'all are the ones that have made Clubhouse a successful app by black conversations. See, here's a perfect example of when people who you think are riding with you, who are being exposed, yeah, that's what's going on. And so the people who are the venture capitalists, so the people who are behind that, they're behind Clubhouse. And this is why you have to always expose these people for who they are, because they claim to roll with you when a certain person is in, and now they flip. That should be an insult to every black person. And again, I got nothing against Daniel Penny. I'm not saying Daniel Penny shouldn't have a job. But when you purposely hire somebody who has expressed no interest in venture capital and you're going to teach them how to do the job, I say to every black person or every person of conscience who's not black, delete the Clubhouse app now, because we should not reward the people with our time and our talents who don't give a damn about us. Mustafa, you first.
Oh, no, I agree. You already know how I feel. I don't fund my own oppression. So you don't get my dollars if you're not standing in my community and you are not rooted in the values that are necessary for our liberation. So I'm very clear about that. I also have talked about on this show numerous times to stop letting people pimp us. We continue to allow this pimping in America. This is just another example of it, and we continue to also elevate individuals who ain't got no receipts. So I watch TV shows every now and then, these different news shows, which is very, very rare for me. But I often look at the folks that they bring on there and I'm like, but they ain't got no receipts. They ain't never done nothing in our communities. But yet we continue to see these people being elevated. So that's why I'm thankful for the Black Star Network, because at least when you see somebody who's sitting before you having a conversation, it is folks who are rooted in trying to make positive change. It is folks who are rooted in actually doing the work. And then you have folks who are also rooted in making sure that we have a positive future.
See, Scott, you're going to love this here. It says famed Silicon Valley venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz has a new deal partner, Daniel Penny, and it says the A16Z team Penny was hired to join. It's called American Dynamism, and they're going to be focusing on aerospace, defense, public safety, education, housing, supply chain, industrials, and manufacturing. A photo of Penny appears in his team gallery, and it says right here, David Ulovich, a partner at the firm, we believe in Daniel and are excited to have him as part of our team. It says, Ulovich said the firm plans to teach Penny the business of investing. Penny was an architecture student at New York City College of Technology, also known as City Tech. In explaining A16Z's hire decision, he wrote, I believe, as I know many of you do, that Daniel acted with courage in a tough situation. He was acquitted of all charges. Beyond that, it has always been our policy to evaluate the entire person and not judge them for the worst moment in their entire life. Wow, Scott, I didn't realize choking somebody to death in a subway and being acquitted works well on your resume.
It does if you're white. And in America, I'm sorry. Listen, if Daniel Penny had been black and the victim had been white, that Daniel Penny, the black Daniel Penny, would still be unemployed and never get another job. Daniel Penny, the white Daniel Penny, he running around with the president. He's the guest of these leading white conservatives wherever he goes, simply because he got acquitted.
I mean, Scott, you're the major law firm. If a partner came to you and says, Scott, we want to hire this guy. Oh, by the way, he's expressed no interest in law, but we want to hire him and we're going to teach him how to be a lawyer. What would be your response if a partner says, Scott, don't you think this is a great idea?
No, No, because you're wasting my money. And what you pay him should be going into my pocket, at least part of it, since I'm an equity partner. So, no, I'd say something worse, but I still believe the FCC regulates us, even though
actually they don't. Actually they don't. The FCC, no, but Scott, there's no ambiguity. The FCC only controls those who seek a broadcast license, and this is not a broadcast network.
I would tell my partner, F no. And
so,
get the F out of my office.
So to everyone who is watching, who is listening to me, this is the app Clubhouse. You should delete Clubhouse from your phone. You should download Fanbase. You should download Spoutable. You should download Spiel. But you should stop supporting Clubhouse because this decision is a gross affront. And you should not be making Andreessen Horowitz any money if they choose to sell an equity stake in Clubhouse. And trust me, if you remove black voices from Clubhouse, that app will be worthless. And I actually did a Clubhouse chat on the app more than a week ago, calling for us to get off of it. And when it was over, I did it on their app. And I immediately deleted the app as soon as I was done. And so I will never, ever be on Clubhouse. I ain't downloading the app. I'm calling on every single one of y'all to delete this bullshit from your app and tell Andreessen Horowitz to go to hell with this decision. And again, I have nothing against Daniel Penny. He was acquitted. A jury heard it. But when you purposely hire somebody to thumb your nose at folks, and that's what it is, in a climate where y'all are claiming DEI means definitely not qualified, this is a perfect example of white privilege of a white man who was hired because he strangled somebody on a subway. And Andreessen Horowitz...
Killed somebody.
Yes, he killed somebody. So Andreessen Horowitz...
Human being.
Yes.
Killed a human being.
And their decision is, let's reward him to teach him how to be a venture capitalist. Black people, let's teach them that we do not have to keep our talents and our voices on their app. Delete Clubhouse today. Share this with your friends and your family and do the same as well. Because guess what? There are other options out there, including Black-owned Fanbase, where we can have audio chats. So Clubhouse, y'all can go to hell. Scott, Randy, Mustafa, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much.
Man.
Say it again, Scott.
My man.
Oh, by the way, I ran into some of your Kappa brothers at the NBA All-Star game in San Francisco, and one of them pleaded with me to show you more grace and mercy on the show. And I said, absolutely not.
Absolutely. In fact, I was in Atlanta airport coming back from Atlanta, and you got a lot of fans there. They were coming up to me and say, "Why Roland treat you so bad?"
That's a lie. Man. That's a lie.
He's smarter and more handsome than Roland.
See, right there. See, we all know that's a lie right there.
It's his show. What can I do? You need to give money to him, but tell him to have some grace with me. That's right.
And see, Randy Mustafa, the reason I know he lying, because the last time I saw him, he said, man, people come up to me saying, yo, man, why don't you back up off Roland and stop over-talking?
That's true. That's true. They do say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I need you. You made me famous, at least in Atlanta. So, I got never love for you. In fact, I might give some money tonight. I'm just feeling good about you right now.
Well, damn it, you need to. So you need to pull that platinum Amex card out right now and make your contribution to the Bring the Funk fan club. You damn right you need to, Scott. And the rest of your Kappa brothers as well, because remember, without Alpha, y'all just Kappa Psi.
Oh, God. Jim Gold, too. I saw the picture. You ran into one of my business partners, Jim Gold, as well, at the All-Star game. So you were hanging.
No,
really.
Of course. And I was representing the show, so that's what we do. So appreciate all three of y'all being on the show. Thank you so very much. Man. Folks,
I got to go.
We know that's why I signed off, but your ass kept talking. Your ass kept talking. Now make that damn contribution before your ass get off. All right.
Yeah, I knew that, get it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, folks. Be sure to support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. I told y'all this is about us building an ecosystem of Black-owned media, so you understand what's going on We got a new show that's dropping on Thursday. When you support this show, this is what you're supporting. Y'all roll that ad. Of the new show that's coming. There we go.
Abolition focus. Should we aim for reform or abolishing the entire system? Simone Felix lets us know how much possibility lies in abolition.
That is such a radical image because it offers the suggestion, a suggestion that we already know to be true, which is that we have what it takes to take care of each other and to take care of ourselves.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
So, folks, Jameer Burley and Bria Baker are the co-hosts of that show. We will stream it at 11. Is it what the graphic says? 11 a.m. or noon on Thursday, and then it's going to restream at the conclusion. Let me see here. Yes, it's going to be. Well, it just says this Thursday. I think we drop it at 11 a.m. Eastern on Thursday, and then we restream it at 8 p.m. after my show. So y'all want to check that conversation out. Two millennials hosting that show. Great conversation. And folks, there are some other things that I'm working on, some other shows I'm looking at bringing to Black Star Network. We're looking at creating a business show. So there's a whole lot that's going on. So your support is critical to us building this. And I say this all the time, and this is not hating, it's stating. The work that we do here is not happening at other Black-owned media outlets. It's not. I will put the content that we do every single day on this show, I will put it up against any other Black-owned media outlet, and I'm telling you right now, the interviews and the content that we're kicking out every day is unmatched. You will not see on The Griot. You will not see on The Root. You will not see on Essence. You will not see on Ebony. You will not see on Black Enterprise. You will not see on Blavity. You will not see on Urban One. You will not see on Radio One. You will not see on TV One. You will not see on BET. And I can go on and on and on. So when you're supporting us, you truly are supporting Black-owned media that is speaking to the interests that you care about. We want you sharing our content. We want you reposting our content. We want you bringing in new voices. In the last 28 days, we've added 90,000 subscribers. We are approaching 1.65 million YouTube subscribers. As we stand right now, it's 1,645,934. But here's the deal. 60% of the people who look at our videos on YouTube don't even subscribe. Why do we want you watching our YouTube videos? Because actually, the better payout in terms of from our videos happens on YouTube. The reason we have the Black Star Network app is that way if anybody says we can't run something, we have our own platform to run it on. We try to drive people to our YouTube channel because those views actually drives revenue. But the second line of revenue is critically important to us is when you donate to our Bring the Funk fan club. When we built this, I said to our audience that I wasn't going to send swag, wasn't going to spend the money on, because that merchandise costs money, all stuff costs money, and the reality is we want to put that money into the show. We want to have new shows. We want to hire more producers. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just being straight up. I have a plan right now that if we're able to generate an additional listen to me clearly, if we're able to generate an additional $2 million in revenue, I will hire 7 staff writers, an editor, and a digital specialist. We will hire actually 2 editors. So 7 staff writers, 2 editors, digital specialists. That's 10 people. We want to turn blackstarnetwork.com into a news portal. We want to be able to be driving anywhere from 10 to 20 written stories every single week that we'll talk about on the show as well to expand what we're doing. That's what I'm talking about when I say what we're trying to do. I want to be able to add another anchor, another reporter to be able to do some reporting, to host another show as well. I want us to have a second daily show. The other shows that we have right now are weekly shows. I want a second daily show that's either in the morning or that's also coming on before mine, in midday or whatever, and that we're so expanding our footprint. And so that's what our goal is. And I told all of you who are watching, listen to me clearly. When we met with our YouTube representative in Chicago, the Democratic National Convention, this is what they told me. They actually said when they put in Keenan, if we have that graphic, I want you to send it to me if you can, real quick, a screenshot or whatever. They told me that when they grouped us with all of the progressive shows out there. They just put us in that category. So they put us in the same grouping with Brian Taylor Cohen, with Midas Touch, with the Young Turks. These are people with 6 and 7 million YouTube subscribers, much bigger platforms than our 1.65 million. This is what they said to me, and Keenan was on the line with me. They said, we have the highest watch time per viewer than all of those shows. That Roland Martin Unfiltered is #1 in the average watch time per viewer. That means that our audience is watching our content longer. They are more engaged than any other progressive platform in the country. Folks, that's what we are building. And that's why we want people who are 50 and 45 and 40 and 35 and 30. We want that 18 to 50 demographic watching as well, because what we do not have enough of today is real fact-based information. We do not care for these other so-called new black media people who just run their mouths. We are about real information, laying out to you real consequences on what's happening in this country. And so your support makes that possible. And so if you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. Cash App cancel all of our accounts because they changed their rules. And so if you still want to give to us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Then, if you want to give to us, check a money order. Send your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal is paypal.me/rmartinunfiltered. Venmo is venmo.com/rmunfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com, roland@rolandmartinunfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Those proceeds come right back into the show. Get our merchandise, Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black Star Network merchandise. Of course, our shirt, hashtag, we tried to tell you, FAFO 2025. Don't blame me, I voted for the black woman. Go to rolandmartin.creator-spring.com. The QR code is on the screen, or you can go to blackstarnetwork.com. And don't forget, I told you, the hell with Clubhouse, delete Clubhouse, download Fanbase. You do audio rooms on the Clubhouse, you can do audio rooms right there on Fanbase. And so download the Fanbase app. Isaac has posted the video. They've raised $9.2 million. We're moving closer to our goal of $17 million in this Series A raise. And so go to startengine.com/Fanbase if you want to be an investor in Fanbase. And so, folks, that's what we're doing. We're making this thing happen. We're not talking about it. We're being about it. We're not sitting here wasting our time waiting on other people. We are building the black-owned media platform of the 21st century, the same way the Chicago Defender served its purpose when Robert Abbott founded it in 1905, the same way when Frederick Douglass did the North Star, the same way with Ida B. Wells Barnett and her paper, the same with John H. Johnson with Negro Digest, Jet and Ebony, Earl Graves and Black Enterprise, of course, Ed Lewis and others when it came to Essence Magazine. We cannot allow black-owned media to die. We cannot be asking people who don't look like us, who don't think like us, who don't represent us, who don't care for us, who don't love us to tell our story. Support this show, support this network. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! Black Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?